All right, first, can I just get you to identify yourself on tape, please?
Sure, Steve Kornell. You need me to spell it?
No, thank you.
Okay.
But your title.
Yeah, St. Petersburg City Council member for District 5.
Explain where we are and why you're here.
Sure. Where we are is that there's a very flawed process that's going on that victimizes women over again. The way it's been done has not been fair, has not been compassionate, has been a farce. For Mitch McConnell to say, well, let's hurry up and get the hearing over so I can vote for Brett Kavanaugh, makes a mockery of process and a mockery of everyone who's been victimized, every woman who's been a victim of sexual assault. And I think it's important that there's a fair process. And I'm not very happy with people who act like that. I think they're just wrong.
Why are we hearing these horns in the background?
Because people are supportive and people get it, that it has to be a fair process. And it's as to why I'm here. In my career for 3 decades, I've worked with families and children, including 13 years now as a school social worker. And in that work, I have very often, I'd say for dozens of young women, I've been sometimes the first person that they've told that they had been raped. And so I have to walk them through that and help them deal with that as part of my job and help them get the help that they need to heal and so forth like that. And what I will tell you is sometimes they might talk to me in high school and it happened 10 years ago. So the idea that it's unusual for a woman to be assaulted, the idea that it's unusual for a woman to be assaulted and not immediately report it is not the experience that those of us who work in the profession and deal with the issues on a fairly regular basis have experienced. The idea that Dianne Feinstein had an obligation to break Ms. Ford's confidentiality is wrong. I have adult friends, and sometimes I'm the only person they've ever told about things. I don't break their confidentiality. I don't violate their trust. And so I think it's important to have a fair process that allows due process, but I think it's also super important to be fair to the victim. And I think that not allowing that to happen and not having respect and criticizing and say, for President Trump to come out and say the nasty things that he says sends a message not only to Christine Blasey Ford, sends a message to every woman who's been victimized in this entire country in that way, that you don't count, that you're not as important. And I think that's just flat out wrong. That's not something I will support. It's not something that I will ignore. I won't stay silent on it. Women deserve respect. Women who come forward to report these horrible crimes deserve to be heard in a respectful manner, and I will not back off on that. And I think the idea that Donald Trump is doing that and Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley are doing that is horrible. It's unforgivable. To me, I can tell you that makes me want to vote. Every chance I get to vote, obviously just Trump out of those three would I get a chance to vote against. And I will vote against him because I think he's treats women in a horrible way. That's been documented, and that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable from anybody, not just Donald Trump, from anybody who would engage in that behavior. The other thing that I want to just strongly dispute, I have 3 decades of working with families and children. I have a master's degree in social work. I understand child development. There is no normal path of development that includes a rape period in high school. That is not okay. It's not something that is boys are boys and that happens in high school. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. They have to be completely responsible for their actions all the time. And the idea that instead of saying, let's have a dialogue about this and how do we better educate our young men, the idea that we're going to turn it into everybody goes through a rape phase in high school is just bullshit. It's terrible. It's unacceptable, and that's why I'm here today, because I have very strong beliefs, and it's my job as the person who serves those clients, and as the friend, as a brother, as a son. It's my job to speak up on this issue as well. This is my issue too, and I will not be silent about it.
What kind of message do you think it would send if, I can understand if this was hidden away and it was forgotten about and he got away with it and he ended up being on the Supreme Court, but now it's out in the open. The accusations are out there, they're very detailed, and if he still becomes a member of the Supreme Court, what kind of message does it send to the people that you're counseling?
That you will not get heard, that you'll be attacked, that you'll be treated unfairly in the system. So don't come forward, because this is what you can expect. And as a matter of fact, many of the young women that I've worked with have been treated that way sometimes by their families who don't believe it's a family member that's doing it, and by the system that makes it that would attack them and criticize them sometimes for showing the symptoms of trauma. They take that as the problem rather than a symptom of what actually happened. And I think it sends a very negative message to every woman, and certainly every woman that's ever experienced any type of attack like what Ms. Ford is alleging happened. And I think it's very important to not send that message. I think a better message would be, we're going to look at how we have conversations about this. We're going to look at how we teach young men to do it better, to be better, to understand clearly the boundaries that are acceptable and the boundaries that are unacceptable. We could do all of that. Donald Trump could use his platform to do that, and he intentionally chooses to be nasty and very, very disrespectful and to send that very negative message. But it's more than Ms. Ford that he's sending it to. He's sending it to the entire country. And I think for those of us who know better, it's time to stand up and say that's not acceptable. We need to have a better dialogue.
Thanks for your time.
Sure, absolutely. Sorry if I'm long-winded.
No, I appreciate it.